Speaking of the cruise industry, thousands of stranded passengers are now back on land in California after a coronavirus scare at sea.
And tonight, the U.S. is hardly the only nation in crisis. Overseas, professional sports stadiums, even entire countries are on lockdown. CBS 2's Jessica Layton has this.
After days of isolation off the coast of California, 2,400 cruise passengers wearing masks began disembarking in Oakland. And one of the first taken off the Grand Princess cruise ship was driven away in an ambulance. Now hundreds of others are heading to military bases to be quarantined.
They've got a hell of a logistic problem.
Wayne and June Holland want to know how thousands will be moved using buses alone. Their daughter, who was also on the ship, has bigger worries.
My parents were exposed and, they're in that class that is at higher risk.
The elderly are among the most susceptible to the novel coronavirus. At least 19 residents of this nursing home in Washington state have died. 70 staff members are showing symptoms. With worldwide travel such a concern, flight crews are cleaning cabins like never before. This picture shows workers in protective suits disinfecting a flight in South Korea that is heading to New York.
It's going to be pretty terrible for tourism and the economy in every sense.
Robbie Kursick of Queens flew into JFK Sunday night after traveling internationally for a week. That included a 5-hour drive from Croatia to the airport in Milan. With 9,000 cases, life in Italy is essentially on lockdown.
The drive through Italy was so surreal. I mean, roads are empty. And again, an Emirates plane is massive. Probably a 1,000-seater plane. Maybe there was 30 people on the flight.
Taking a cue from China, Italy's prime minister told 60 million people to stay home with a nationwide travel restriction. Over the weekend, soccer games were played in empty stadiums. A usually packed St. Mark's Square in Venice, even the streets of Rome, both eerily deserted. At this airport in Tel Aviv, check-in counters are also empty after Israel took the extraordinary step of forcing a 14-day quarantine on anyone who comes into the country.
Those restrictions in Italy go through April 3rd. And by the way, in China, where they've enacted a similar lockdown, there have been no new cases in the majority of that country for 2 days in a row now. If the numbers of new infections elsewhere around the world are scaring you tonight, consider this. Of the 80,000 people who've contracted coronavirus on mainland China, 60,000 have already recovered. Maurice and Christine.